let's suppose we have a project in which we want to track the high temperature of every day of the year. And I can create an array called high temps that would have 366 elements going from 0 to 365. And some programmers simply like to ignore elements of 0 and begin counting with 1. So element 1 would be the high temp for January 1st, element 2 the high temp for January 2nd, and so forth, until element 365 would be the temp for December 31st. And you can see there that I've declared the same thing in C#. And that's a great way of keeping track of 365 unique numbers. But now if we want to extract that information, and I tell you that I want to know what the temperature is for April 15th of the year, which element number do you pull from? You'd have to sit down and calculate which element would be April 15th. And that can become a little unwieldy. A better solution is to create a multidimensional array. So a multidimensional, or in this case a two-dimensional array, has basically rows and columns. Is the best way to think of it. So our first number, notice there are two index numbers when we declare the array. The first number is the number of rows, starting with 0. And the second number is the number of columns, starting with index 0. So in case of VB here, I've declared columns 0 through 51 and rows 0 through 12. And keeping with the previous example where we ignored element 0, I'm going to ignore row 0 and column 0. And so the data now for January 1st, the value would be 67 placed into high temps 1, 1. So the first number would be the rows, second number is the columns. Same thing in C#. Remember in C# though, that last number, the number declared there in the declaration statement for our array, is how many elements and not the index number of the last element. So we're going to do 13, 32. And you can see how the data might be populated. Maybe we populate this from a data file and store that data. Well, now if I want to know what April 15th is, it's pretty easy to do that. I can just look at row 4, column 15, extract that information as high temps 4, 15, and the value is going to be 88. So in some cases, it's easier to think of data in terms of two dimensions. The nice thing with this, if I wanted to find out what the average daily high was in January, I could write a little for loop that will look at all the values in row 1. Give me a total, divide that by the number of days there, and I have the average. I could do that for all 12 of the months. Well, let's suppose we wanted to keep track of the high temperature every day of the year, but in 3 different cities, Phoenix, Tucson, and Flagstaff. I can have a 3-dimensional array. The first index is my month, the second index is the day of the month, and the third index, number 2 there in the VB statement, is the number of worksheets in an Excel program. And each sheet would be one city. So sheet 0 is Phoenix, sheet 1 is Tucson, sheet 2 is Flagstaff. And again in C# I would use a 3 instead of a 2. That's the number of sheets that would be developed. If I wanted to get the temperature for Flagstaff on December 31st, I would specify high temps 12, 31, 2, and there would be my value, 28. But we're not limited to 2 dimensions. We could do 4 dimensions. In this case, I may want to track that information for those 3 cities over a 10-year period. And so my 4th dimension would be each of the years. And I could then pull information for a particular date, particular city of a particular year. We're not limited to 4 dimensions either. We could go 5 dimensions. Maybe we want to have parallel universes. So multidimensional arrays allow us to track very large amounts of data, but organize it in such a way that's a little more meaningful to us as humans.